Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, I got some important Raiders news that everybody around the nation needs to see. And then at the back end of today's show, we're going to talk about the Jalen Ramsey trade rumors. And I'll ask you right off the jump, do you want the Raiders to trade for Jalen Ramsey? Give me a yes, give me a no. My answer is going to be coming up here in just a little bit. But the reason why I have some important Raiders news, it's because if my math is correct, the Raiders have completed all of their top 30 visits, which now means we got about 9 days until the NFL draft to decide what we want to do. From a quarterback standpoint, from a wide receiver standpoint, we went through this list just a few days ago, and the final two players in that top 30 visit was Darius Alexander, defensive lineman from Toledo, and Tetairoa McMillan, wide receiver from Arizona. The way that this ends up being broken down in terms of the Raiders' top 30 visit tracker, 8 quarterbacks, 4 corners, 3 offensive linemen, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. The linebackers and edge, you can debate how you want it. If you want to classify Jalon Walker as an edge, it's 3 edges. If you want to classify Jalon Walker as a linebacker, it's 3 linebackers, 3 defensive tackles, 2 safeties. So that means all of the Raiders' top 30 visits are completed. What I wanted to be able to do on today's show then is kind of break down looking at those top 30 visits and just kind of giving you my 2 cents of what they mean to me, because we can all agree on this. John Spytek, Pete Carroll, which we've already seen in years past. Obviously, relationships matter, but relationships and just knowing somebody is so critical for the Raiders, and I really don't think that they're going to take somebody at number 6 overall that they didn't have a top 30 visit with. At least that's just my 2 cents. So my first takeaway from the Raiders' top 30 visits is this team is clearly going to draft a quarterback. When you go out and trade for Geno Smith and then the majority of your players, let's say 28% of your top 30 visits is the QB, and they range from Cam Ward, who's going to go number 1 overall, all the way down to players that I could see being UDFAs, it tells me that you're trying to do your homework and you're looking at the long term because you're doing all that homework. Another thing that I saw very interesting, only 2 running backs in the top 30 visits. Ashton Jeanty, Kaleb Johnson, both have that physical running style that I could sit up here and say, yeah, like that running back reminds me of something that Pete Carroll would have loved to have with the Seattle Seahawks. I think it's also a really good fit if you're looking for that thunder with that Raheem Mostert Lightning. Both of those guys would fix kind of that duo. Another very interesting thing, the Raiders are still interested in the trenches. I thought that they, did a good job in free agency addressing especially the defensive line. I think the Raiders are a little bit more confident in their offensive line. I like the O-line. I don't love the Alex Kappa move, but 3 offensive linemen, and they are still looking at defensive line prospects and a lot of edge prospects. I could see the Raiders still going out and getting a player in the trenches in the first 3 rounds, but here's one of the number one things I'll say. Lots of players in rounds 2 to 3 where it's one of the biggest reasons why I want the Raiders to trade back. It's not that I would be upset if the Raiders take somebody at number 6. Hell, you kind of look at a lot of the ways that they can go at pick number 6, and I'm okay multiple different ways. But because of how deep this draft is, and I think that it's kind of capped off, and then you look at all the other players that the Raiders have been looking at, that's why I want them to trade back. A lot of round 2 to 3 guys. And the final thing here is wide receiver. It is a top priority. For you to look at a Jaylen Noel, a Luther Burden, and you to look at Tetairoa McMillan, that tells me that you're looking at a wide receiver either in round 1, either in round 2, or potentially even in round 3. And I love Brock Bowers. I love Jacoby Myers, but this is a football team that they need to be able to go out and add another receiver. And I think even if they were to draft one of those 3 guys, you're still going to go out and add somebody after the draft and free agency. I would still be a betting man that it's going to end up being somebody along the lines of Tyler Lockett. If the Raiders do sign somebody like Tyler Lockett, or if you want to hang out with us during the NFL draft, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a thing. When Raiders news happens, I will do my best to keep you guys up to date. And if you were like every Raiders fan out there when you saw the news of Jalen Ramsey going to be traded, I was like, that's the number one thing I got to talk about today on the Raiders Report, which we'll get to here in a second. I also want to say that we have a special live show, and it's going to be Thursday, at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and then we're also going to do a special Friday happy hour show, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. But I am somebody that takes a lot of pride in what I do, and I think Raider Nation is the best fan base in the world, and I'm a competitive dude. Here's the thing. I got second place here at Chat Sports as being the most entertaining person to watch live. Chugs and I got second place. I don't handle that very well, and I want to take down Marshall Green, Giants, Knicks, whatever you want to call it. And if you guys want us to get number one, pull up on Thursday, pull up on Friday. I'm going to show everybody at Chat Sports how entertaining this show can be. And if you want to show them as well, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those notifications are turned on. Because if you ain't first, you're last. And I don't want to be last. Coming up next here on the show, we're going to talk about Jalen Ramsey and whether or not I think the Raiders should trade for him and whether or not I think it's going to end up happening. I will admit, when I first started making this show, I did not think that Jalen Ramsey trade was going to happen. After seeing the latest odds, where there's smoke, there might be fire. Speaking of where there's smoke, there's fire. There's a great deal going on right now around Game Time, and they're trying to cook it up with those last-minute tickets and the flash deals, the official ticketing sponsor of the Raiders Report. Game Time is really, truly changing the game. I will say this, I'm not the biggest NBA fan during the regular season, but playoff basketball is totally different. I've never been to a playoff game, but I love the opportunity sometime in my life because of the atmosphere of a playoff game. I love using Game Time because of the last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, that's CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. I like to browse through the Game Time app, and I like to be able to look at the games that I'm interested in. You can also pick out specific games that you want to be able to go to in a new city, and you can just see the different deals, whether you want to look at them like in the bowl, which I would say is like maybe the most convenient way that I look at them. If you are a hockey fan, the Vegas Golden Knights. I know we've been laughing at Chugs with the Rockets. I know we got some Warriors fans here. If you're planning on going to a Warriors playoff game, get your tickets with Game Time. I realize they still got to win a few to be able to get in, but again, it would be electric. One of my other favorite things about buying tickets and going to sporting events is there's not many times in life where you can sit back and go, yeah, I remember what I did 2 years ago, or yeah, you know what, I remember what I did 6 months ago. Hell, I struggle to remember what I did yesterday. When you go to an event, and that's why I would love to be able to go to a playoff game, it's something that I know I'm going to do before the time I die. Game Time's going to help that happen. So one more time here, shout out to Game Time. Code CHATSPORTS, $20 off. Download Game Time today, and if you're wondering what time is it, it's Game Time. So let's talk about Jalen Ramsey here real quick, okay? And the Dolphins and 7-time Pro Bowl cornerback Jalen Ramsey are mutually set to explore trade options, and it wouldn't be a surprise if he played elsewhere in 2025 per me and Tom Pelissero. Miami and Ramsey do $25.1 million guaranteed this season, could be parting ways. That was a tweet that came out bright and early this morning. Since then, we have gotten a lot of updates, and Jalen Ramsey's going to end up getting traded out of Miami. Cameron Wolf said Dolphins GM Chris Grier, after a couple weeks' discussion with cornerback Jalen Ramsey and his agent, it was in best decision to move forward towards a trade. Grier says Ramsey did not ask for a trade or salary tweak, but they decided a trade is best for both of them in process now. Jalen Ramsey is a hell of a player, and if the Raiders were to go out and trade for him, they would owe him $21.1 million in 2025, and because he's got $0 million guaranteed in his final 3 years of his contract from 2026 to 2028, if you're the Raiders, you could essentially make the trade for Ramsey, do it as like a one-year prove-it deal, and then you could renegotiate his contract if need be. Our Dolphin source here at Chat Sports, Nick Roloff, told me that it's likely going to cost a third-rounder because there will be some other NFL teams that also show interest in Ramsey. But the fact that Chris Grier already came out and said, like, it's going to be a trade no matter what, I do think that could lower the value a little bit. If the Raiders were to make the trade, this is what it would cost them as a salary cap in the year 2026, 2027, and in the year 2028. If he could stay healthy at 30 years old, I get it. So that's 30, 31, 32, 33 years old. Jalen Ramsey. My question to you is this. Would you trade for Jalen Ramsey if it cost you a third-round pick? Type T for trade, type P for pass. My answer is going to be coming up right here after this YouTube ad break. I am more than okay with the idea of the Raiders going out and trading for Jalen Ramsey. I still think he's a great player, and I believe in Pete Carroll, and I believe Pete Carroll knows how to work with defensive backs. If I would have told you that Stephon Gilmore at year 30 was going to cost what Jalen Ramsey is going to cost right now, I think everybody and their brother would have gone out and done that deal. I know that age is going to scare some people. However, when you really think about certain players, until you see the drop-off, you still got to be able to say, you know what, that guy can still go out there and ball. We talk about Calais Campbell all the time on the show because I'm like, I don't give a shit that he's 38 years old. He's still one of the better defensive tackles in the National Football League. This also makes me think of back a few years ago when I was like, the Raiders should go out and get Casey Hayward. And people were like, no, he's 30 years old, he's washed. But he was a really good fit for that defense. And I think Jalen Ramsey, his mentality, it's exactly what Pete Carroll wants. Wants guys to go out there and compete. And Jalen Ramsey's got a little bit of Max Crosby in him too, where he knows he's an elite player. And he's going to let you know about it. Last season, in 17 games played, he's also been able to stay healthy. 70.8% completion percentage against them. 546 yards, 2 touchdowns allowed, 2 INTs, 5 PBUs, a quarterback rating of 93.5. That's also in a season where the Dolphins had one of the worst offenses in the National Football League, and they were on the field a ton. When you look at his PFF grades over the past 4 seasons, 2023 was a little bit of a down year for Ramsey. But then if you're telling me I'm getting the 2022, 2021 version, even the 2024 version, it's the best cornerback that the Raiders have on their roster. And because I'm somebody where I want the Raiders to be able to go out there and I want them to be able to compete this season, I know that you're not going to be able to find a better corner than Jalen Ramsey in the 3rd round of the NFL draft. Also, because he would be the no doubt number 1 corner on our team and we have the money to do it. If we didn't have the money to do it, totally different conversation. Excuse me. But because we have the money to be able to do it, you put him in there, and he'd probably be the guy that would start over Eric Stokes. I still want another nickelback of some sort, no disrespect to Darnay Holmes. But, I mean, you're telling me Eric Stokes, Shakorian Bennett, and some of these younger players wouldn't learn something from somebody like Jalen Ramsey? Get the F out of here. Ramsey is an absolute competitor. With that being said, I really do not think that the Raiders end up trading for Jalen Ramsey. This is what I said in the show. And when I do these shows, I build them, and then we get to live, and there are some times that things can change. I don't think that the Raiders end up making the deal for Jalen Ramsey. I put down that I thought the top 5 destinations for Ramsey were the Baltimore Ravens, the San Francisco 49ers, the Washington Commanders, the LA Rams, and the Atlanta Falcons. I didn't want to change anything on y'all because a lot of the times I love this show because it is exactly how I feel. It's in real life. It's in real time. Well, guess what? We just got the latest trade odds around Jalen Ramsey, and the number 1 team from Vegas most likely to make the deal for Ramsey, it's the Las Vegas Raiders. I can't be somebody that sits up here and says where there's smoke, there's fire, and not actually look at what Vegas is telling me. I also say all the time on the show, Vegas a lot of times knows something before anybody else does. The fact that the Raiders are on here, and it's not that they're the 2nd, it's not that they're the 3rd, they are the number 1 team most likely to make a deal for Jalen. That makes me think that it is a little bit more of a likely scenario. So if they end up pulling off the deal, it's going to cost you $21.1 million in the year 2025, but you can restructure that contract, and the Raiders have the money and the flexibility to do it. Also, because of that final 3 years, it kind of ties in with Pete Carroll because Carroll's got 3 years with that 4th-year option. If it only costs a 3rd-round pick, I would do this trade for Jalen Ramsey. This guy would be an absolute stud, and he would look great in silver and black.